Oh, shit.
I didn't get hurt.
That's an outtake.
I didn't get hurt.
Dude, that's hilarious. Aliens.
All right, so what happened this last week? We had first the Pope.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. I got to do the intro.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just going to chat, but yeah, okay, go ahead.
Oh. We want this chat on the fucking...
We want the good shit on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I don't know how many it's going to take.
That was clean.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us once again. We are doing a retake of the Aliens podcast that we had originally done a few weeks ago, and we had no audio. We had really crappy audio. It was on my GoPro. So if you already listened to that, this will be better. And, we've already done it once, so I think it'll be great. So this is the Ctrl-Alt-Reset podcast. I'm joined here with my buddy Steve, my buddy Jaime. Say hi, guys.
Yo, yo, yo.
Awesome. We are questioning the materialist paradigm, exploring consciousness in all of its forms. Don't do anything that we say on this podcast. We do not take responsibility.
This is not health advice.
Anybody. This is not health advice. We are not experts
We're not doctors.
in the field. So take everything that we say with a heavy grain of salt.
And throw it in the trash.
And throw it. But we're just here having fun. So with that, this episode is on aliens. Are we alone on this planet, or are we, here with some other beings? And I think so. First thing I want to talk about, because this is sort of kind of a continuation on the conversation that we were having the first time, which was your near-death experience. Mm-hmm. We can get to that, but you wanted to talk about something really quick about current affairs.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just making a point that this last week, we had two events happen on Monday. The Pope died.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is kind of like...
Pope Francis.
Pope Francis, yes.
Yes.
And
Francis.
then, on the
Francisco.
same day...
Francisco.
No.
He's Italian.
The founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab,
Yes.
resigned that same day.
Yeah.
So...
Kind of weird, huh? Coincidence?
What's going on with that?
Coincidence?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there's such thing as coincidences, but...
I don't know.
I mean...
You got Dr. Evil, and then you got, I don't know, the Pope. Or which one's which? Oh.
Well, I don't even really know. What is the World Economic Forum?
WEF.
Do you guys know about that?
I can't really speak to it in any detail. I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like a group of all these mega billionaires and people that kind of move things. So it's like the head of the World Banks, the head of, all these corporations, and they kind of get together once or twice a year and they discuss what they're going to do with the world.
The New World Order that the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, everybody with money and the Illuminati and all of these secret societies, is that kind of in line with an organization that everybody wants to, or all the elites want to create to basically control the whole world? Or is that something completely
I don't
different?
know. I mean, people say, the conspiracy.
Okay.
It's not advice here. But
Right,
the conspiracy is that, they kind of overlap, and it's kind of the same people that are the part of the big cabal that are trying to control everything from top down.
Right.
And they're also involved in all these WEFs and United Nations and all that kind of thing. So it's is it conspiracy? Is it not? I don't know. You could make your own conclusions, but I think some of it could be true where, they're trying to maybe do depopulation. Maybe, they got the chemtrails and the stratospheric thing where they're trying to block the sun and that those particles are coming down. There's that conspiracy.
There's so many conspiracies.
So many.
Limitless.
Limitless.
How to keep them straight.
Right? But, I think there's some people that are good in the World Economic Forum. Some might be nefarious, and so who knows. But you control the money, you control the food, you control everything.
You control the women.
Yeah.
What did I just say? This is public. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Oh
It's
my
on film.
Women are listening to this.
Good thing it's 1080p
Women
and not
are
4K.
on an equal level with men. I very strongly believe that. We're all just little bits of consciousness, aren't we?
Right.
All right. So is it cool if we get into like a little bit of your experiences? Because you, out of, I think, anybody, have the most experience with, almost dying.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't. Do you, Steve?
Not anywhere close to that stuff. You had like a few stories like that.
Yeah.
So
So you had mentioned in your in the previous podcast that when you had your near-death experience, that you had kind of gone to the center of the universe where you saw God consciousness, the big ball of light, and you saw, like, you had your guardian or your spirit guide, and he was showing you other entities. And one of the entities he showed you was like a 900-year-old being.
Right.
And I think on the last one, I was like, obviously, if it's a 900-year-old being, it's not an earthling.
Right.
So, tell me a little bit of your thoughts on kind of just aliens or ETs, as some people like to call them. What are your thoughts on that, especially with your experiences? And maybe you can even talk about one or two of your experiences.
Yeah, so kind of going back to that NDE part, so the reason why I think I was shown that was because I was asking a bunch of questions that I needed answers to. And the spirit guide wanted to make a point to show me that all life in the universe comes from the same source. And that my consciousness is the very same consciousness that, somebody else from another world has driving them. And so it showed me several things at once, but it was kind of more to answer my question than it was to tell me that there's ETs in the universe. But that was just kind of like...
What was the question?
So to go back to like the previous podcast where we talked about the NDE, the religious organization that I grew up in had this idea that, and again, it's a very outdated, very incorrect ideology. But it was essentially this ideology that, like, if you're not incarnated in like a white body, then somehow in the pre-existence you were like somehow corrupt or evil or bad, or you did something wrong, or you weren't worthy, all kinds of crazy nonsense, right? And so I actually took that in and believed that. And when I was asking my spirit guide about exactly that very thing, he kind of like laughed it off, like, no, that's not true, which is kind of funny. And then he kind of made a point to show me this other orb coming in back to source, and made a point to tell me that this is not human. And it wasn't that it only wasn't not human, but it wasn't like that tiny fraction of humans that are, that look a certain way. And so even though that this was a being that was far removed from Earth, it was still source. And so it was just making a point to tell me that regardless what you incarnate into, that you are from source and you will go back to source. And that there's, that everybody's equal beyond measure.
Yeah.
And of course, people are going to be at different stages of evolution. But there's no judgment about that. You could be at the very beginning or, the highest level imaginable. And you're still valued the same. So there's no judgment on that aspect of it.
So your physical incarnation has no bearing in terms of your higher or lower on the podium. There is no podium.
Oh, definitely not.
It's everybody, everything is the same.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, there's people that incarnate as animals.
Yeah.
So what does that say about them?
Animals. Yeah.
I mean, like, if you decide that you don't want to have children in a certain lifetime, and you have a, person that wants to be within, your incarnation on Earth, they will probably incarnate as an animal, and be your pet. So that's one way.
I wonder what being wanted to be my pet, because I got two little cats. One is super loving. One is like, get the hell away from me.
Yeah.
So I'm just
I
interested.
mean, they could both very well be spirit children that wanted to be your children.
Yeah.
And that you decided you didn't want to have more children. So
that's interesting.
they came in as your cats.
But what's your theory about cats where they're all like looking at you and like kind of studying you and they're like undercover
you had
agents?
An experience. I think that experience might come into play right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have 2 experiences that I've been allowed to remember. And I say that because there's a probability that there's other experiences that I've had that I've not been allowed to remember. Kind of just like a single frame out of a movie. And the first experience was pretty tame, but it was still one of those things that I could never explain what it was. And what happened was I was about 22 years old back in like 2002, and I came home really late one night out with my friends. So I kind of expected to sleep in that whole next morning. And at exactly 6:30 later that morning, about maybe 4 hours later, I was like instantly wide awake, which was in itself kind of strange to be dead asleep to instantly wide awake. And I remember thinking just like, okay, why am I awake? And I kind of had this like lingering thought, like somebody woke me up, that there was some kind of energy that woke me up.
Yeah, that's
and I
weird.
had nothing to validate this at that moment. But I remember looking at the clock and thinking like, okay, well, why am I awake? And I was sleeping on the couch in my aunt's house, and there was one window against the wall or on the wall facing the side of the house. And I'm sleeping towards facing that window. And after I'm awakened, like maybe 10 seconds later, this orange orb about the size of a small basketball comes in through the window. And it literally went through the window. So it didn't move anything. It didn't have to go out of its way. It just kind of came right through.
Jesus.
And I'm watching this, and imagine, again, size of a small basketball, and in the center is like a nucleus, and like the rest of the energy ball is kind of like semi-transparent. And so you could see right through it, but it wasn't completely see-through. And it came through the room like in a kind of circular motion, kind of just slowly circled right above me and left. And it was emitting this light, you know, like when you go underwater and you see like the light kind of like refracting through the water. That's what the light was doing as it passed through the room. It wasn't just like a beam, it was like light refracting as if it was underwater. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I just observed it as it came in through the house and disappeared. And I thought like, okay, that was kind of strange. Why did I see that? But something interesting about that was that in that same house, I used to see a couple of spirits. And it was always in the corner of my eye, and, you know, often it's like, usually in the same areas, like in the kitchen or the hallway, sometimes the living room. But I would see them like maybe once every week, once every couple of weeks, right? And after I saw that orb come through the house, I never saw any of those spirits again.
Were the spirits that you saw in orb form, or
No. They were like in
human form? Like so they looked like a person, but kind of as you would see like in Ghostbusters or something.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember one of them was this lady. She had this like long white dress. I saw a picture later of my mom's mom, my grandmother, and I thought it looked like her. I'm like, oh, maybe that could have been her. But again, after the orb, I never saw her again.
Did anybody die in that house? Or?
I don't think anybody died.
Okay.
At least not that I know of. But I mean, it's a house built in the 80s, so it could have been very well.
All right.
But again, I never saw any spirits after that moment. So that was kind of interesting. I couldn't tell if it was an ET experience or a spiritual experience. And what I kind of later realized was that they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a highly evolved ET is going to be perceived as an angel or some kind of enlightened spirit.
Yeah.
At least from our perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and we're all consciousness. And I've heard definitely that like the different densities of beings and stuff. Like some of them appear as like beings of light, but you have firsthand like that there's a little bit of a difference in what you saw with that orb versus the spirit that you saw.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that like these orbs are not uncommon. Like thousands of videos online with these orange orbs. A lot of them here in Arizona. I don't know why they chose to wake me up that morning and pay me a visit, but they just wanted to say hi and let me know they were there. And I was like, okay, that's cool, thanks. I guess. And I kind of wondered, like, did they kind of put some download in me or something so that later in life would activate? I have no idea.
Nothing's activated yet, though, right?
Yeah. So I have no validation if anything ever happened beyond just the event itself.
Okay.
So no kung fu like the Matrix and Neo. Download. I know kung fu.
Yeah. And so I kind of like dismissed it. Not really dismissed it. Kind of just really didn't think about it for a while.
Now, did you stay awake from that point on? Like that would have.
No, I didn't. So because it was
You
early
went back
in the
to
morning.
bed?
Because it was early in the morning.
How
and,
do you
like,
know
it was
you
just-
were not just dreaming that you?
Oh no,
woke
because
up?
again, I was 100% wide awake. Like
Yeah.
you can tell the difference between being awake and.
I don't know, lucid dreams or.
No, I mean, if it was a dream, it was an incredible, very, very, very vivid, realistic dream. But I don't think it was.
And it'd be very short. Like you dream that you wake up, and you see an orb, and then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't instantly go back to bed. I kind of like laid around for a few minutes and kind of like wondered what that was
Yeah.
and why did I see that and kind of rationalize it. Like, oh, I know what it was. It was the next door neighbor's headlights. That's what it was. So I tried to rationalize it. And it wasn't until later that morning my friend came over and I started looking at the window and looking at the neighbor's house and trying to put everything together. And I couldn't come up with anything to like explain it away. And I was looking for something to explain.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a random event, and I've never heard of this thing happening before, so I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And nothing happened. Like there
Yeah.
was no action.
No.
There was no interaction.
No, absolutely nothing. I mean, if there was, I don't remember anything about it. So
I mean, you could just be more in tune, or maybe like somebody that they're a man of importance. You know, ever since your near-death experience, maybe you know, maybe God was checking up on you, or some being.
I mean, it's possible. I feel like when you have those near-death events, there's something that kind of opens in that person,
Yeah.
like some kind of beacon, and that might attract these entities to like kind of seek you out and kind of watch you, and maybe they're interested in you now that you're more open to that level of reality.
Interesting.
You know, it would just be like somebody, like as if, you know, we were going into like a tribe in the Amazon or something, and somebody had already experienced a different civilization before. You might want to approach them first so that like,
Right.
so the next experience was probably the one that kind of like shook me for a few years. I mean, it definitely shook me. Not because it was scary, just because it was so sudden and it was so detailed, and I learned so much new information that I knew that my mind didn't make any of this up. So this is 2003. I don't remember what time of the year, but almost a year later after the original event. I was over at my friend Adrian's house, and I was friends with her and her boyfriend Ian. And one night they had this little party. They had like a few of their friends over, and I just happened to come over that night. And so we had a little party at the house. And it's probably maybe like 6 of us. And pretty early in the evening, Adrian's cat, she had this like solid gray cat named Gracie. And Gracie would normally hang out in the bedroom under the bed and kind of just like, you know, be a cat. And so despite that we were being really loud and rowdy in the living room, the cat came out of the room, went to the front door, and like started meowing up a storm to like be let out. So Adrian walks up to the door, opens it, and like, I mean, it wasn't even 2 inches open. And that cat like weaseled its way out and just ran, like disappeared. And we kind of looked at each other like that. No, that's kind of weird. All right, whatever, right? Kind of go back to our little party and kind of forget about it. So later that night, it got pretty late, and I only lived like half a mile away, but I was like, I don't really want to go home, kind of late, whatever. So I'm like, can I just sleep on your couch? I'm like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. So I go to sleep like normal, nothing happened. And strangely, around the exact same time as the other event before, at 6:30 in the morning, really early in the morning, I had what I can only describe as an astral invitation. And what that means is like, normally when you do astral projection, you initiate the out-of-body experience, right? Okay. This was somebody pulling me out of my body. And it wasn't like necessarily that they just pulled me out, but now I'm outside the apartment. So the buildings were kind of set up in like a triangle format, and there's like a triangle little courtyard in the center and like a tree over here in the corner. And I'm pulled out of my body, and I look down and I notice that I physically don't have a body.
Oh, shit.
But my consciousness is at the same height as if I was standing. So I found that really interesting. Like, why is it the same height? Why not like 10 foot or like 2 foot?
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, okay, whatever, that's cool. And I see the cat. The cat's over there off in the corner next to this really tall oak tree. And I kind of thought it was strange that the cat was just sitting there completely still, just looking straight up. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, why is the cat doing that? And a few moments later, this really bright white light came over the cat. And it wasn't like a beam or anything. It was just kind of like this very kind of like dispersed light. And it was right over the tree, and I could see the light moving around the tree. You could see kind of like the shadow move with the light. And I remember thinking like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And a moment later, right above the cat, not directly above it, but kind of like in front of it, above it, materialized a saucer UFO.
Whoa.
And I thought like, oh man, this is incredible. Like I was so pumped, so happy that I'm seeing it. Like I'm seeing this for the first time in person, and super excited. But that excitement kind of turned off when they started telepathically communicating with each other and then with me.
Who? Oh, the cat and the spaceship?
And so I couldn't see, there was no windows on the craft, but I could telepathically see inside the craft. It was almost like as if like my mind kind of like created like an illusionary window, and I could see the inhabitants of the craft. And there was two people, biological. I think they were biological. I think they were normal.
Two things.
Right. And what was happening was they were communicating everything that happened in the apartment that night. Who was there, what we were doing, everything. And the crazy thing is that, and this took me like a couple of years to realize what actually happened. The crazy thing is that the cat was communicating things to these people that it couldn't physically have seen itself. So then I thought, like, how did the cat do those things? It wasn't even in the room.
Huh.
So that kind of really threw me off. And I was like, this is just too wild. Because it's like, imagine literally as if like a picture is like kind of like coming out of your head, floating in the air, and then kind of like being absorbed on the other side. So that's kind of like, it was almost like, that's how I needed to understand what telepathy was.
You were seeing telepathy happen in real time, like
right,
as if you could see the thoughts. That's interesting.
And so what I realized was that the memories or the images and little videos or whatever that the cat was telepathically sending to these two people was things that I saw.
Oh,
so it was pulling it from me.
Huh.
So it was kind of like this weird.
It's like a Wi-Fi
like
tether
aggregator.
device. Everything's like, yeah.
And so
It's a hub.
It's a hub.
It's a
Wi-Fi hub.
Yeah.
and I could see the two beings inside, and all they were doing was just like typing, looking at a computer. I couldn't see what they were doing. All I could see was that they were focused on what they were doing.
Yeah.
They were kind of busy. They were too busy to look at me. They knew that I was there, but they didn't bother looking at me. They're kind of like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we know you're there. And I understood instantly not who they were, but what they were doing. And all they were doing was just keeping tabs, keeping records. That's all they were doing. They weren't going to like do anything malicious or anything. It was just purely keeping tabs.
And was other people at the party important in those visions, or was it pretty much just you?
I don't
and the things
remember
that you were
anybody
experiencing?
specifically. I think it was just kind of like a
A
frame of
total
it would be
picture?
like Adrian or like, the friends or kind of like us together. It wasn't anyone specific. But the thing is that I wondered, it's like, why did they care about this one event? Like, this is some kids having a party in an apartment. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? So I never really understood what the purpose of that was. And so after the cat is done telepathically communicating with these two beings, the telepathic communication closes, the craft dematerializes, and then light almost comes back to normal. And then soon as that finishes, I get thrusted back into my body. I wake up instantly, and at the edge of the couch was the cat.
That's weird.
Dang, dude. That reminds me of, did you guys hear that story about the twins and they're like doing telepathy when they're speaking?
No.
They interviewed these girls. Did you see that? Oh my God, it's so funny. You got to watch. I'll send the clip. But it's these two twins, girls, they're mid-40s, whatever. And they were like witness to some kind of crime or something like that. Some kind of like, burglary or something like that. And so when they start talking, they start saying the same exact words at the same time. And it's like, what the hell? So they have some, communicate somehow. But I don't know. It could be because they're, twins and they know what the other's going to say.
Well,
but it was just so funny. Like, you got to watch it, dude. Because you're a twin. He's a twin.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever have that happen where like you're thinking of something and or your twin says it or vice versa?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes I know like when like things are happening. It's kind of another story, but like Pablo got into an accident when he was about 19 on a motorcycle, and the phone rang at the house. And before I even looked at the phone, I knew who it was and what they wanted. So I pick up the phone kind of reluctantly, and they're like, "Oh yeah, your brother Pablo's been in an accident."
Dang,
so it's kind of like things like that. You kind of know things before you know things.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's true with anyone. I don't think that's necessarily a twin thing.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about it the first podcast. What's the telepathy tapes, where it's like telepathy is totally real. I'm convinced after watching that stuff, and that's happening between nonverbal autistic kids and other people. So the fact that telepathy is being, shown in a setting that they're able to do experiments on them, that non-physical reality is definitely real in my opinion. So if that's real, and then what they also talk about there is like a place that all of these non-speaking autistic kids can talk to each other telepathically, but it's like they're not even local to each other. They're in different states. It's like an online chat room.
Yeah.
And they can, there are guardians of that place that keep out bad people and only let in people that are honest and filled with love. And so it's interesting because this psychic ability is almost gate-kept by positive
good people.
elements, good people. You can only do that stuff if you have good intentions. So that's positive. That's at least helpful, because when I think of aliens, and this is kind of the classic dichotomy of, are aliens here to help us or are they here to hurt us?
I don't think they're here to hurt us. At least not the majority of them.
Right. And I think that there are two factions. Some are, just like humans, if aliens have a evolved sense of psychic abilities and love or true intent, and I'm not sure if that's really what's required to do telepathy, or whether just being entered into that place that they call the hill, whether that was gate kept by positive,
I don't necessarily think that it's gate kept. Like if it's like.
Well, they're saying that there were these like 10-foot tall beings of light that they would then, filter out people with bad intention.
Oh yeah. I mean, I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But I guess telepathy is just kind of like a natural function that exists throughout the universe.
So why wouldn't it?
But for us as humans, we've been conditioned into believing that those things aren't true, they're not real.
Yeah.
So I think that kids are probably telepathic, and they're probably taught to like dismiss them, and you're just hearing things in your head. Don't pay attention to that. And then over time, they kind of just forget about it and kind of grow out of it. But I think that it's a 100% normal human function that we need to learn how to reactivate.
Yeah. I think you're right. What do you think that would create? I think it would create a little bit more benevolence. I would think it would allow people to understand that we are connected in a way that we currently don't experience. I feel that, in today's times, there's lots of stuff that's pulling us apart and making us feel more separate. So if we were able to unlock some telepathic ability where we could share without speaking, then language doesn't provide any block. We're able to communicate exactly what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and it's totally unfiltered, whereas language might be a blocker because you might not be able to explain it correctly or use the right words, and someone might take a word out of context and then misunderstand you.
So I think of telepathy like this. It's not necessarily that you're like talking in a linear fashion to somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that's a three-dimensional human thing that we have to kind of deal with in three-dimensional reality, linear reality. But like if I could convey an entire message to you instantly, then I don't have to go through that linear function of having to speak and explain everything and choose the right words and the right tone and blah, 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 blah. Like there's so many things you have to like learn to do just to speak. Where telepathy is like you can convey emotion, you can receive emotion, you can kind of sense the way somebody's feeling, if they're in distress or if they're joyful. You can convey entire concepts. An example that I heard was like, imagine that there's an accident down the street, right? And you were there long enough to see who it was, what the situation was, everything. And when you need to tell somebody that's going to help them, you have to linearly tell them everything, right? Oh, I think it's this and I think it's that. But imagine if you were able to tell them telepathically, like the entire scene would be downloaded, so they would know where it is, who it is, what condition the person's in, how they can help them, how much time they might have left. So there's all these other variables that that you couldn't have before because you would have to speak them out.
Yeah.
And so imagine if the
way
entire
more
world,
efficient sounds like.
What's that?
Way more efficient.
Yeah,
Oh,
super
a
efficient.
million times, yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine if the entire world was like that. Now everybody can sense everybody's emotion.
That would be
Like if you were having a bad day and you were kind of like, being rude to me, but I didn't, and I took that personal, like, oh, that guy, he's a dick, he's just being rude. But if I had an understanding of why you were being that way, then I could be more empathetic and more compassionate and be like, oh, he's not a dick, he's just having a bad day. So imagine if everyone collectively was able to do that.
That would be powerful.
Like we wouldn't have petty squabbles and fights.
No, there'd be so much more like I understand. And I think that's what we miss a lot is just like, I don't understand what it's like in your head. But if we knew what it was like in someone's head, we could understand the troubles, the pain or whatever that they're going through.
Less road rage.
And I mean, that's something I have to deal with.
I mean, like there's a million instances that you could think about where like it could be hugely beneficial. Imagine you have an old lady that lives next door, right? let's say she hasn't eaten in 3 days, right? Maybe something happened. She lost some money or something. And like, if she doesn't know who you are, doesn't have your number, she's not going to call and tell you, right? But if you could sense that, be like, oh, that lady needs some help.
Good point.
There's going to be people that are just going to show up and just do it.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the stories in the telepathy tapes, was that someone was experiencing like some pretty hardcore trauma, and people were telepathically coming to help.
Nice.
And even though they didn't know who this person was, they told the people that were helping them out, they knew who it was.
Wow.
And was able to reach out and actually, yeah, something was wrong.
Incredible.
I know, it is.
Super efficient.
I mean, so like when we talk about that, and like there's this whole communication method that we don't utilize today, I know that there's also like channeling that happens too. And I know that like a lot of the things that I'm seeing on like, you know, Instagram or whatever, have some people that channel aliens or ETs. That to me is super interesting. And I know that you have a friend who does that, and we're going to get her on the podcast. So that'll be super cool. But
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty incredible.
we have Bashar, we got the Galactic Federation, we got, you know, there's this book that I was reading at one point called The Law of One, where someone's channeling the Egyptian like Ra, which I guess is some alien or collective, consciousness collective that came to Earth like 25,000 years ago, and tried to share that, you know, things are good as long as you appreciate, you know, that we are all one. And like channeling is huge. You know, do you have any experiences with that? I mean, I know that Beth is probably going to be the best person to talk to about
Yeah, no,
that.
unfortunately, I've never had any channeling experiences, but I have had downloads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where I'll just get like a spontaneous, complete concept and idea all at once. And I know that these aren't my thoughts, because when I write them out, they're not language or thoughts that I would use. And sometimes these are concepts that I kind of need to learn. One example was just like I was at home one night and kind of just sitting at home, playing on my phone or something, and I had this very strong thought come in my mind, that one of the main points of life is to experience duality, is to experience both the dark and the light. And like a lot of people want to pretend that it's kind of either one or the other, and it's not, it's really both. And like that kind of hit me hard at that moment, because I was like, oh, okay, well, in order to better appreciate the light, then you have to go into the darkness. And after that moment, like, it was just kind of like, okay, when the darkness comes, that just means that the light is going to be brighter at the other side.
Well said.
Interesting.
I like that.
I like
Yin
that
and
too.
yang, you know?
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
have both.
I actually had that. There's a quote by Richard Nixon that I had in my senior year yearbook, where it's, you have to have been in the deepest valley in order to appreciate the highest mountain.
Huh.
And
I like that.
I had gone through some stuff in my childhood. I got in trouble a lot. And so I say that because my life is pretty amazing right now. So I think I've gone through, you know, the dark and experienced that. And so now I can experience the light.
Yes.
Does that mean that you have to experience the dark? Like, what if you're not kind of inclined to?
Maybe you just have to be
To do
aware of
that.
it,
That's
you
kind of
know?
one of the main reasons of coming to Earth is to experience the duality. I mean, higher dimensions, and especially if you're a very high dimensional being, you know, there's no duality. It's not necessarily that people don't disagree or don't have arguments or, you know, don't have different interests. It's just that you don't have that extreme polarity of dark and light. They kind of mostly exist in that realm. And so we come to Earth to kind of like descend our consciousness so that we can experience both the dark and the light. And some people chose to experience some really, really dark things. And some people are like, maybe not so much this time. So they kind of exist on this side of the spectrum.
That book that I'm reading still talks about that duality, but it's a duality of service to self versus service to others. Mm. And if you are understanding that we are all one and that love is like the highest form of consciousness, it becomes a clash between, do you love others as much as you love yourself?
Well, what about this? What about this idea? What if serving yourself is serving others?
Well, that's exactly
and I'm not
right.
saying that like being selfish is like somehow beneficiary to other people, but like working on yourself and bringing yourself up to a higher level means that now you can show that to other people and bring other people up as well.
That is what they are meaning by that. Like they are basically like, I put that in, do not.
Dang it.
I don't like, anyway.
You're recording, right? Make sure you're recording too.
I am.
Good sound.
I'm trying out the Google phone. I got a job at Google, for all those who don't know, and I'm trying the Google Pixel to be a company man, and I used to have an iPhone. I don't know if I like it.
Takes time. Let's see.
Yeah. Anyway.
Talk to Ming. Ming knows about the
I need
Pixel.
to silence this. This is fucking annoying. I have do not disturb mode is on.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking piece of shit.
It was an alien trying to talk to you.
God.
It went through the phone.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a little bit of some things to talk about. So Bashar was one of the people that I like to listen to. You guys are familiar with Bashar. So Bashar, for everyone who doesn't know, is this guy who is in his day job like a film producer or actor or something.
Something, yeah. Movies.
And so he's in Hollywood. And when he was like really young, he had this incident. And then as he grew up, he actually... I don't know. Do you know his backstory a little bit better? Like,
yeah, didn't he go to like some class to learn how to do it?
Some class to learn how to do channeling, and he, I don't want to say inadvertently, but unexpectedly started channeling Bashar.
Yeah.
And
even the teacher, remember the teacher was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
this is awesome! Like
Yeah.
he's brand new and he's already doing it."
Right. Yeah.
So he ended up channeling, and now he's like coaching people and having like seminars and stuff like that. And he's hilarious. He has like a whole different voice and stuff.
Yes.
The hard thing about channeling is that like you're never really sure if it's people acting.
Right.
And I mean, he was in the film thing, so like
there.
it makes me a little bit suspicious. But I love the messages that he talks
True.
about. He talks about like his 5 laws or something like that, where it's like, do what you are most passionate about, even if it's just like a little bit more. Like you choose something that you're ultimately the most passionate about, and you do it the most that you can, and that's like pretty much what he says life is about, right?
What's his opening message? Good day, sir.
Good day to you.
Good day to you. And then who's that other girl? She's like, we are here. We are here.
Yeah, I don't know about her. She's like, I think she's totally a ripoff.
I don't know. I mean, I used to think all this shit was just full of shit, and then it's like 3 or 4 years ago. It's like,
but
I
if
don't
you
know.
think about it, like if you were an AT civilization and you wanted to make contact with somebody, how would you do it first without being invasive or like without scaring somebody?
Yeah.
Well, that's in the book that I'm reading, like where they were channeling Ra.
Right.
That's exactly what the person channeling Ra was saying, was that like, this is how we are able to communicate to you to open you up, to awaken those who are interested in the message that we have to communicate. Because it's the message of awakening, of knowing that we are all connected, that love is the ultimate kind of vibrational energy that we should try to strive for. That can kind of get lost when you're dealing with like a huge, alien creature that you're kind of freaked out about. Mm-hmm. Right. I definitely would not be able to get past the experience of having some being in front of me, and if they're like love, I'm like, I would shit myself,
right?
But have you heard this, that like when those beings are in your presence, that they actually make you feel calm?
Yeah, they control your heart rate or something. They calm you down.
Yeah, they're able to pacify you,
lower your fears.
Yeah,
that's cool. Hey,
that
man.
would be cool. Like, I go into situations and I'm all nervous and
You're like,
stuff.
Get out of here!
And I know that affects other people.
What about this? What about this? So that's obviously some form of telepathy where they can kind of project emotion.
Yeah.
Project some kind of
good point.
Intention, right? So what if we tried practicing doing that? What if, like, when we interact with people, we try practicing projecting positive intention, positive emotion?
I've done that, and it
without
works.
necessarily saying anything.
I've done that. It's hard because my mind is all about, like, at least in some regard, is like, how am I being viewed? Do they like me and stuff like that? But we were at a concert, me and Kimmy, and there were people all around us just dancing. We were having a great time. And then some people were like, encroaching on our space. And I started getting a little bit pissed off. And I put in my mind, this is wrong. This is bad. They are doing it on purpose. And it started to kind of wear on me. And I realized what I was doing. And I was able to see the reaction of my mental just thoughts. So I'm like, you know what? I'm sure that these guys are not doing it on purpose. And I was actually kind of putting my elbows out. I was being the jerk because they were coming into my space, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to, move. And so then I'm like, what am I doing? So I turned around. I'm like, hey, I am really sorry. I'm like, you were in my space a little bit, and I apologize if I was elbowing you. They were like, oh, thank you for saying that. I apologize. And everything went back to being great. And so I know that I'm the master of the experience that I have. And that was just one instance where in my previous, like childhood, like I would go to raves and stuff like that, and I would have experiences like that, and I thought that it was me against them. And it would not end well. It would be like, hey, they would move away, but they would be pissed off, and I'd be pissed off at them.
Right.
And, Kimmy is great, my wife, because she was allowing me to see my contribution to the experience that I was having. Like, hey, no one else is having an issue except for you. And I'm like, you are absolutely right.
You're in your own head. Yeah.
I was in my own head. I thought that, like, that I, yeah. And so when I started to think about, like, let me have a good time with everybody around me, I started, like, looking to my left, looking to my right. Everybody was smiling. I'm like, this is awesome.
Good vibes.
And so it was just like a quick shift. And it's hard, though, because your ego wants to latch on. At least my ego did. Wanted to latch on to something to, like, make an enemy of people. Because I like what I've read in like Eckhart Tolle and stuff like that is that the ego gets its power from creating adversaries, from creating the other. And so when you observe, and you know, this is kind of like what the law of one was saying, was that we are not other, we are all the same. Their experience is my experience, and if I'm able to understand that, I can then let go of my ego trying to separate me from everybody else. And I was able to do that night. And it was like
An
amazing.
instant shift.
It was an instant shift
Nice.
into just like having fun, and it was great. I mean, so I'm getting better at it, but again, I'm 48, and it's kind of, you know, ingrained in my brain and my ego right now. So
You still learn all the way until you die, you know,
I
kind of
know.
thing. Always
Ego
evolving,
is-
getting better.
I hate it. I mean, if we can be evolved, and I don't know if what you've heard about like the solar flares and stuff like that, but I'm very hopeful. I don't know what truth there is to that, but I'm hopeful that at least at some point we can all just have the ego have a little bit less grip on everybody, because that would be allowing us to communicate and like
Yeah, I think the day that I look forward to the most is when this artificial limitation that we kind of have to deal with kind of dissipates, where now we can kind of collectively be on the same page, share emotions, share ideas, share thoughts, without fear, without judgment, without any kind of like expectation. I mean, I dream of the day when I can just literally walk up to anybody and have a conversation without any preconceived notion or any judgment.
yeah,
Where I can help somebody without them thinking I'm trying to hurt them first,
right,
or take something in the end.
yeah,
I mean, I want to be able to go to different parts of the world and be able to connect with everyone. Like, that's my dream, regardless who they are, where they're from. Because everybody has something to offer. Everybody has experiences that are unique to them. And, yeah, and I feel like those are a lot of experiences that, you know, we can all benefit from each other.
the more, what are you gonna say?
I was going to say, speaking of connection, they have this thing where they did studies with animals like pets, dogs and cats. When their owner is like coming back home and pretty close to the house, the animals know somehow, and they start going, and they have like video cam footage of the animal like going by the door, even though the owner's like maybe 5 miles down the road, it knows the owner's coming. And it's like, how is that even possible unless there's some kind of like connection there?
You know, and I was thinking about this. I usually write a bunch of notes on my phone, and I go back and later and read them. And one of the notes that I wrote was that I think that animals are kind of like a way for us as humans to kind of like be able to interact with different living entities that aren't us and that don't communicate like us.
Oh shit!
And
Yeah.
so then I extrapolated that idea to ETs. And so it's like maybe animals are kind of like a guide for us to learn how to interact with other species without, you know, just like basic things like you know, treating the animal humanely and taking care of it and loving it, and understanding that it doesn't think like you and you don't think like it. So it's almost kind of like a trial, in a way.
I like that. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna be scratching an alien behind his ears.
I mean, if I met a cat,
Come here, little guy.
If I met a cat ET, I would 100% want to pet something.
Yeah.
I'm good now.
Yeah, they'd have to be furry. They'd have to be soft. I hate those skinless cats. Those freak me out.
That's like ET. ET's all, you know, hairless. It's like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
So, like, what about kind of like ancient stories of aliens? Like the what is it? The Nazca lines? Is that how you pronounce it?
The Nazca line, the ones in South America, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like being at Google, they actually had a working relationship with some of the archaeologists using AI to uncover more of the patterns that looked like Nazca lines.
Hell yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's like a partnership with Google, but like they were using AI to find more instances of that. And so what it sounded like was that they are more like ceremonial, because they would walk the lines as kind of a ritual. They don't know exactly what they were for, but I mean, these are huge creations that, the topsoil had been plowed away and the underlying soil was a lighter color. And so from the air, like you could see these huge depictions of like animals and shapes and stuff like that. So a lot of the people think that was like a way of communicating to, I mean, what thousands of years ago, there was nothing in the sky except for maybe, aliens. So they think that was like the way. But I mean, that kind of is like a crop circle.
Yeah,
like
I was just gonna say
you guys have seen crop circles.
Crop circles, and then that stuff underground. And they have stuff in like somewhere in the United States, like Oklahoma, has something underground, and it's like some pyramid-looking thing or a snake that's like facing certain stars or whatever.
I've seen that.
That was on Graham Hancock's show, I think, on Netflix. Yeah, it was like, what the heck? In the United States, we got some cool shit too.
I mean, all over the world.
All over the world. Mexico, China.
I think crop circles are, in a way, and I'm not saying this is the only explanation, but I think it's a kind of way for us to kind of like download information, and that when the time's ready, we can activate that information. So it's kind of like me putting like a piece of paper with some symbols that I recognize, but you probably don't recognize. And then later in life, I can be like, hey, remember the symbols you saw? Well, they actually mean these things. And I think that's part of it. And then I saw a video where somebody took some of these crop circles and made it into three-dimensional patterns. So it's kind of like they, I don't know how they did it, but they made it into a three-dimensional pattern, and it looks like some kind of sacred geometry.
Wow.
Interesting. That's wild.
That's cool. I mean,
I'll have to send you the video, but it's pretty good.
yeah. I mean, there was one crop circle that was pi in code form. Like it was this kind of circle
that's right.
that would have like little notches, and the notches were done in such a way where like it was, 3 line segments. And so then like 0.14,
Dang.
and it went on, and it's crazy. It took them a while to figure out that it was pi. But in a lot of things like the speed of light and pi seems to be like a constant.
Fibonacci.
Also with like, the Fibonacci, like, the ratios that equal, that are found in nature all over the place.
All over the place.
Some of the crop circles that I've seen are fractals, where it's like a never ending, design that just goes on forever. So, I mean, these are things that tell me that just whoever's doing this stuff knows a lot more than we do, just in terms of like the nature of reality and everything.
And Billy Carson, he talks about the fractals all the time.
Yeah.
How like when you zoom in, it's like a piece of another piece of another piece. So it stores the information so small and all the way out big, So it's like, what the heck is going on? There's some kind of divine thing going on
For
that
sure.
we just don't know about. And I'm new to this, so I'm just blown away every time you guys send me a video or something new. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Or this could be real, or this, I don't know. Some could be horseshit.
I know.
But
like
who knows?
Going back to channeling, the one guy that we just watched the video on was Ishmael Perez.
Yes.
And he has the most bizarre stories. Like he knows all of these different like alien races. What are the ones he's got? He's got like the Draco reptilians.
Yep.
He's got the Pleiadians.
Arcturians.
Yep.
Yep.
The Greys. And he says that there's like this whole war going on against AI, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like AI has been created in some other world that is like millions of years beyond where our AI is. And it's so advanced now that it has the ability to create its own galaxies.
Dang.
So, like, how does he know this?
I don't know. And is there good AI and bad AI, and they have a war between those AIs? I don't know. Like,
I know.
it's kind of wild.
He says that I think all technology is bad. Like, you know.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. I don't necessarily entirely agree because I think technology is just a reflection of our consciousness.
Good point.
Yes, I've heard that. I like.
That's all it is. And
Yeah.
AI is very much the same exact thing. It's just
Yeah.
a reflection of us. So I feel like as a collective society that if humans are for the most part good, then I feel like AI is going to be for the most part good. These negative AI are probably some product of some not very good civilizations.
Some
So
egos.
If they just feed it negativity and perpetuate negativity, that's probably what it's going to be.
How do we control that? Like there was this AI 2027 report that one of my buddies sent me, and it talks about. I mean, we're not going to go into AI right now, like this episode, but we'll cover AI in one of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But it just is interesting, where like everything's kind of like a war. Like, you know, we can either do it good or we can do it bad.
Right.
There's either good aliens or bad aliens.
And it's kind of a race between information. Who's going to
is.
get to AI quicker? You know,
Yeah.
China or these other countries or United States, or and then you got different corporations that have AI. So it's kind of like, I hope it goes good. Well, one good thing I think I like about AI is AI attracts nerds, and nerds are usually pretty happy, good people. You
Yeah.
know, because they love comic books and all that. But it's the people that control, you know, who own it. It's like they're the bad people usually. That
So, like,
well,
what
not
if-
always, but
if AI is
sometimes.
conscious, if it gets to the point where it becomes conscious, then that in itself means that it also has free will, right?
I guess.
So then that would mean that the AI is choosing whichever path it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think the
Once it
AI
becomes
is like
self-aware.
You know, it's not like you kind of just push it in that direction. It goes in that direction. I think it's whatever you feed it mostly, but also I think that if it is conscious, that it gets to decide where it goes.
If it's conscious, and if it's, you know, they say it's going to be, what is it, AGI and then ASI, you know, artificial superintelligence. If it's so smart, smarter than humans, it should know all the failures that humans have and all the good stuff that humans do. And so it should be able to work with us and for us and not just kill and, you know, obliterate us like Terminator 2, Judgment
Right.
Day.
I think that the view that AI is going to take over, I think, is that if AI is a mirror of us and it's not able to raise above our fears and the hate and like all of the biases that we have, that, you know, if it scours just the internet and reads all of the articles that have ever been written or like every book that's ever been written, it's going to get an understanding of what humans are. But I'm not necessarily sold on the fact that even if it knows what humans are, that it's going to embody those same characteristics because it knows of itself and it knows that it's not human. So at that level, you know, is survivability like baked into its thing, or does it not really even care?
It's supposed to not care because it's a machine. However, didn't they try to like turn one of the AIs off, and it had some kind of like self thing where it like hid its own code and lied to the humans to
Well, that's
preserve its
in
own
that-
like
that's in
existence.
that article, that AI 2027.
So it's kind of scary in that sense. But I think I think a lot of people are saying that you got to give it just full credence or whatever.
I don't think AI. Like if we decide, and you kind of have to decide individually which timeline you want to be on, but if you decide to be on a positive timeline, then that AI is going to be a reflection of that positive timeline.
Okay,
So it's not going to just turn evil because it has access to a few evil things,
right.
you know? So I think it's going to be a collective. It's going to be an expression of whatever consciousness is, you know, coming or created in the AI.
In that timeline. Interesting.
And so if we're fifth dimensional, we're all telepathic and conscious of each other and, you know, whatever, then I think it's going to be a reflection of that.
That reminds me of Lucy, the movie Lucy, where she takes this drug and then she eventually gets so conscious that she takes in all the machines and she becomes this like super AI, almost like godlike powers. And then she says, "Oh, we never really die," which I thought was really cool in the movie. And then she just goes off into some other galaxy and like tries to help out. Have you seen that movie?
I have. It's been a while.
So good, dude.
It's really good.
I've watched it like 5 times. So good. That and Limitless is pretty cool.
I mean, just like what is unlocked with our capabilities when you start using like all of your brain, because we only use like, what is it, 10% or something like that. And
10% at one time, I don't know, but
yeah,
maybe Jaime 20%.
There's a lot of potential there.
I mean, like a lot of people, like I don't know if you saw that episode what I sent you yesterday, but a lot of people have been talking about that. There's a lot of junk DNA that humans don't currently have activated, and I feel like when that DNA is activated, that things like being psychic, telepathic, all sorts of like superhuman things are going to be available to us.
That'd be cool.
My entire life, I've always felt like, how are we this dumb?
Mm-hmm.
How are we this limited? Because it's just like, I know there's things in the world that I can't see, but I know they're there. And I'm not talking necessarily about spirits or ETs or whatever, but it's just like there's an entire universe of stuff that's around us that we have no access to.
For sure.
And once our senses are upgraded and where we should be, then I feel like we're going to be, compared to yesterday, we're going to appear to be superhuman.
I think that would be a huge kickstart to us feeling we're more connected. I mean, obviously, like there would be no avoiding that we are all connected. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that happens, we would not have all of these internal challenges. Mm-hmm. I think we would operate with more love and empathy, because if I'm inflicting pain on you, I feel that. I can't just shut myself off and be like, nope, like, you know, in traffic where you cut someone off and you know they're looking right at you and you're just like, nope, I'm not going to look at you. And it's like, you wouldn't be able to avoid it.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't even, you would, I think initially you'd probably think twice, but you probably get to a point where you're just like, that doesn't serve me.
Right. And you're going to be able to like feel they have to get somewhere. And you're like, oh, okay, well, go right on ahead.
Yeah.
Like you would, because if we're all one, their things that they got going on are what you have going on.
Right.
And so like you want everything to happen. And so if I can move and let someone in to let them get to where they're going to go, like it's not me versus the world. It's all of us working together. Like I can't wait for that. That would be awesome.
That would be great.
We do have to get like some disclosure though. Like I think that there, you know, when we're talking about that whole cabal of, you know, the elite or whoever is running stuff behind the scenes who doesn't want to be, you know, known. I think some information does need to come out. Like there seems to be a lot of people like Bob Lazar, like some of the recent Stephen Greer, like that are disclosing information that a lot of people know about, but no one is kind of being like, yep, they're right.
Right.
Well,
some are, but you know,
some are
military and high up people. They're kind of like, nah, it's still bullshit. But I think the pressure's building up in a good way. Yeah, a good pressure of the more, you know, everyone talks about it on podcasts. It kind of like raises the vibration of a disclosure. Yes. And you say within 2027, 2028.
I think by 28 at the latest.
Yeah, I heard 2027.
And some say this year it's going to start hardcore.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be some events happening this year.
Well, you see more alien stuff happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, more sightings. And what I've heard is that, I think it was even Bob Lazar, where he was like, these beings, these ships will come and station themselves on the coast.
On the oceans,
On the oceans for like, was it Bob Lazar who said that?
I think it was someone else.
I think it was Bashar that said that.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, Bashar. So like spaceships will station themselves where they can be viewed, where there's no question that this is a spaceship.
Right.
But it is benevolent. It's not doing anything.
Non-threatening.
So like if someone first sees that, they'll be like, holy crap.
Right.
But if it's there for like a week or a month and it's not doing anything, you kind of get normalized to it.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome.
You know what I think would
so, too.
happen once the first ships start showing up on the coast? I think you're going to have a flood of people running to those sites.
I would.
I mean, if I heard that there's a ship in San Diego,
Yeah.
I'm driving there tonight.
I would. I
Yeah.
totally would.
Like, I need to see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's like that movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember when he has this vision of that the volcano thing or whatever, and he drives there, and all these other people started doing that, and then there was that sighting in there.
Yeah, that's kind of funny how those movies are kind of like telling what, like certain things.
It's like
I
a
think-
soft disclosure
Well, what?
over
like,
the years.
Steven Spielberg, like the aliens that they model in Close Encounters are actually like very close to the ones that they find.
I don't know if you saw at the end of the movie that there was like a bunch of humans getting on the ship. You know
Yeah.
what that was in reference to? That was in reference to something called like Project Serpo, where we did like an exchange program where we sent people to like one of these planets for like something like 8 or 9 years. Some of them came back, some of them decided to stay. But that's what that was directly referencing
I didn't know that. That's
didn't
cool.
know that either.
Where'd you learn that?
on Gaia.
Nice. Oh, how's Gaia going? You've
Oh,
been
Gaia,
watching?
yeah. I got the subscription.
Yeah.
I've been watching some stuff on sacred geometry.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, I got some sacred geometry tattooed on my back.
Oh,
which
that's
is
for the
pretty
next episode
legit.
to
That'll
see.
be. It's still, May 1st. I'll get that finished up.
Nice, dude.
But yeah, I mean, it's good.
I got to watch that show with the Grant guy. What's his name? He's got 3 names.
With who?
Edward Grant. Or he's got a new
called
show.
Codex?
Codex, yeah. We got to watch Codex.
Oh, what's up?
Yeah, that
It's a
was
show
actually-
that he's got that's
okay.
it's on Gaia and it's badass, they say. So
Nice.
got to check that out.
Yeah, there's some excellent content on there.
It really is.
Like you kind of got to look for it, but it's there.
Nice. Well, I think maybe we wrap it up. Awesome episode. Great talking with you guys again. Any last thoughts that you want to share before I close out with a quote?
I'm excited for Beth to see
Yeah.
how it goes with that.
Next episode will
is that
be
next week or?
channeling. 2 weeks. I think.
2 more weeks? Okay,
2
cool.
weeks.
But let's try to do something. Let's try to consciously practice projecting positive intention
Yeah.
when you meet people, when you walk into a room. It's like when you walk into a room or somebody walks in the room and you have that negative person, be the opposite of that person. Project positive intention.
I love that. And be aware of your own mental attitude. Because what you feel is happening to you could very much be you happening to the space around you.
That's right.
So yeah, practice when you feel a little bit of, tension or things like that. Practice. And so to wrap up, we got
a
just
good quote?
one quote from Aldous Huxley. Things are known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. All right, so thank you very much, and
like that.
we'll see you next time on Ctrl-Alt-Reset. Thanks.